Hello again, I am Blunty. Fallout 76 looms, and the so-called beta, which is not actually a beta at all, but merely a set of pre-release server load tests, which is why Bethesda is playing word games by making a clumsy backronym for beta in the form of the Break It Early test application. Tell me that isn't forced. Quick question as we begin though, which platform are you planning to play Fallout 76 on, and why? Also, I hate having to ask this, and I've resisted doing it for as long as possible, but YouTube have left me with little choice at this point. Please do the thing where you sub and hit that friggin' bell, otherwise a sub might not actually be a sub and how you expect a sub to operate. Also, do the thing with the thumbs and whatnot. Anyway, as I publish this video, there's only about 24 hours until the first 4-hour-long beta session opens up for Fallout 76 on the Xbox platform. A week later, PC and PS4 platforms open up for the same. Now, I've had a busy couple of weeks bouncing around this big muddy ball we call home planet, and between said travel and adventuring and preparing for another set of flights and adventure, albeit this time only interstate instead of international for the PAX Australia Gaming Expo, well, it's all made it a bit tricky to keep pace with the Fallout 76 news and reveals that have been pouring out over the last couple of weeks. While I was in New York, a bunch of other influencers and media were in West Virginia, where Fallout 76 is set. Not by coincidence, at the invite of Bethesda to get all wined and dined and soak into 3 whole hours of gameplay. Imagine that, flying people in from all across the world for 3 hours of gameplay, in a game that's designed for hundreds of hours. Wouldn't it be nice to have that kind of budget? Anyway, while I very much enjoyed my first visit to New York, I'll admit to some pangs of jelly when it came to this one. I've been eager, and trepidatious, worried and excited about Fallout 76, and 3 hours with my hands on it would have been worth a lot to me. The info, details and gameplay that have come out of the event, both from sources of peers I trust, and from YouTubers I don't usually watch, but seem to be quite deep-soaked in Fallout content, certainly enough to have some context about how well they can be trusted on their opinions on this game, well, it's all been quite encouraging. It's no secret that when Bethesda revealed the nature of Fallout 76, its online only, shared world, multiplayer core scaffolding, as opposed to the single-player RPG every single other Fallout game has been. Yes, I know, have your arguments about whether or not Fallout 4 is actually a true RPG or not, whatever. Mad people get tied up about that, don't they? But fans were nervous. Very nervous. Some were furious about change. I hate change. Some were eager to see what the wonderfully interesting Fallout world would be like to share. I like change. Mechanics changes from special stats to perk cards to the worry about PvP griefing to the further watering down of the hardcore role-playing mechanics and styles and opportunities. But the stuff that started pouring out of the gameplay sessions held at Greenbrier Resort in West Virginia has actually settled my own worries down quite a lot. For a start, we saw more clearly how PvP works, one of my biggest worries. I really was quite worried about griefers griefing for the sake of griefing because for the lulz and trying to ruin other people's experiences just because they find it funny. But PvP in Fallout 76, like Bethesda said, they've thought a lot about it seems. You have severely reduced damage to being done by the instigator until and unless the target fights back, which the game sees as consent for PvP and unlocks normal damage for everybody. I've heard some people describe it as a glove slap mechanic, which I quite like. You know, put a bullet in the back of someone's head, I challenge you to a duel, sir! And we saw how when you die, you only drop any junk you're carrying. All your core items, your weapons, your buff and debuff items, your clothing, your armor, and all of that kind of stuff are all retained with you when you respawn. Now, junk is important, very important actually. It's how you maintain and repair your weaponry, which has a durability stat now, so they wear down and break over time. So it's not a costless death, but it's a nice way to handle the balance between the cost of death and the frustration over loss of progress. Because junk is easy enough to replace if you must. You can go back to where you died and all your junk is in a little paper bag unless someone else has come along and stolen it, so that's nice too. But it's just nice to know all your sort of custom weapons and all the stuff you've carefully crafted is retained. We also saw some practical examples over how VATS works now. Obviously you can't slow or stop time in a multiplayer world, that just doesn't work, but the kind of auto-aim system of 76's VATS system with the AP burn seems like it'll work well enough, and it does respond in accuracy if you're using weapons with things like enhanced scopes and sights and such. There's also perks for targeting specific body parts, which is very useful indeed against certain enemies in Fallout, of course. So I'm pretty satisfied with how that seems to work too. The survival mechanics are softer and more forgiving than Fallout 4's hardcore survival mode, which is also something I was hoping for. Now, I enjoy light survival mechanics, having to be mindful of food and water, and in this game diseases and other environmental health debuffs. It can help with immersion and general challenge and, interest, but I also didn't want to have to be constantly micromanaging my health. That stuff drives me bonkers. And again, 76 seems to have struck a really nice balance there. One area I'm still worried about is carry weight. One of the things I enjoyed least, and in fact hated to the point of loathing about Fallout 4, was the ever-annoying fact of inventory management. In fact, it got so annoying, I turned on console cheats and turned that off for a lot of my gameplay, so I never had to worry about it ever again. I could just collect all the stuff I wanted to collect. Obviously, I won't be doing that in 76 because it's a multiplayer game and, they won't have that kind of cheaty console command stuff. But in 76, we both start out with even less default carry weight capacity, and it grows slower as you level up and invest points in strength. And things that did not have carry weight in Fallout 4, so you could carry however much you wanted, have weight in this game, namely ammo. So less capacity and more things to manage carrying. Sounds pretty annoying to me. On the other hand, being over-encumbered is managed differently in this game too. Apparently you no longer plod at a mind-shatteringly annoying crawl speed, but instead just burn AP a lot faster while moving, even at a normal pace. So I think I'll be able to manage that without wanting to peel my own skin off my bones in blind frustration. Interplayer trading seems pretty straightforward, and vendor bots and vending machines fill the role that human NPCs would have normally done throughout the world in other Fallout games. Perk cards seem to be mindfully balanced too, though some people lament the loss of hardcore RPG mechanics in just irreversibly investing in a character build. Once you're done, you're done, you're done. I do think this system helps with accessibility, which is important in an online game, helping make sure newbies aren't punished and frustrated by not having an encyclopedic knowledge and foreknowledge of just how to spec out any particular character build. With the card system, although I almost guarantee you at some point it will be made into a friggin' microtransaction farm, even if it isn't at launch, with the cards system being so flexible and being able to swap in and out perks at any time, it does make it easy to experiment and play with different class-like character builds, which can help keep things interesting in a game like this, which is designed for an ever game. And perhaps more importantly, it can make building a balanced and useful team easier. After all, I imagine a party of 4 snipers is not going to be particularly useful to certain quests in this game, where you might need someone specialising in melee or lockpicking. It also means that if you're someone who usually plays run and gun, but you find yourself in this game more attracted to sniping or stealth or melee or whatever, you don't have to roll a whole new character to account for these needs. You just adjust your perk card loadout and you're good to go. And again, in a game designed to be a long-term, ongoing ever game where you'll spend a lot of time building bases and gathering loot and all that kind of stuff, this feels important to me. Being able to keep that investment in time and effort while also being able to try new ways to play. But yeah, PvP, survival mechanics, VATs and perk cards were all my main worry points for 76, and all have been calmed completely, or at least partially, by what we've seen come out of this event. Which is, of course, the point. It's why Bethesda spent God knows how much money flying all of these people to a resort in West Virginia for just 3 small hours of gameplay of a game made for hundreds of hours. It was specifically crafted and designed to put people's minds at rest about the things we were worried about in this game. And of course it was perfectly timed to encourage more people to pre-order so we could get into the beta. The invitees were playing on an Xbox at 4K, which struggled severely at times to hold on to 30 FPS, or even 20 FPS it seemed like to me, but this was a build of the game which was already a few weeks old, and the last thing to happen to a game in development before launch is all that tightening up stuff. So I'm not going to be too harsh on that yet. I do expect that we'll need a few patches to get things up to speed, if it ever does come up to speed on consoles as far as maintaining that frame rate goes. Hopefully the Xbox One X will have some sort of performance option so we can run at 1080p at 60 perhaps. Hope against hope on that one. I played Fallout 4 on PC. It's a first-person game with fairly heavy shooter-focused mechanics, and it only makes sense that keyboard and mouse were the best choice, and I feel that way about this game too. That said, without crossplay, more than just the best way to play comes into the choice about where I'll be playing it. Thanks for that, Bethesda. because I've at least one close friend who will be playing on Xbox, and I'm very keen indeed to share the multiplayer Fallout 76 experience with her. Which means I've actually been an enormous sucker and have pre-ordered this game twice. Once on PC and once on Xbox. In my case, the Xbox One X. Both times right out of my own pocket because I have no connections at all with Bethesda PR to beg and scrape for codes. I did the same thing with Far Cry 5. I got that on 2 platforms too, but thankfully with Far Cry 5, Ubisoft came and helped me out with that one and threw some codes at me. Thanks again, Ubisoft. So, while I think I may wind up with most time invested in the Xbox version, at least initially, doing what I do here on YouTube, it'll still be useful to me to have the PC version for performance testing, benchmark, GPU and laptop reviews and the like, and also seeing the interface design, the quick bar, the selection wheel. It seems pretty clear to me they've been fairly focused on controller player interface more than keyboard and mouse control, which is going to annoy certain people, I'm sure. I'm among them. The limited 30 frames per second console frame rate and tight, presumably unadjustable field of view may turn me away from the console anyway. But beyond all that, the rundown is I'm actually hopeful that this could finally be what I've been looking for. See, although historically I've been very focused on single-player experiences in my gaming time, more recently in my gaming life I've started to look around for a multiplayer game with a sort of evergame component. I've tried a few and nothing has really stuck. I'm not looking for the sort of hyper-competitive stuff. I'm not looking for a battle royale game. I'm just looking for a game that I can play sort of socially and casually and sort of turn my brain off sometimes, just sort of relax into it. There's a way to unwind. I'm currently enjoying Dauntless for that. It's a monster boss fight grinder that's a bit like Monster Hunter, but made clean and accessible, and it's actually really fun. But Dauntless is still in early access, so it's still evolving, and they're not focused on marketing yet, so it has a relatively small player base, and that means matchmaking, especially in Australia, can be a bit thin a lot of the time, making it a bit annoying to just sink in at the end of a day for a few hours. I've also had hopes for Anthem on the horizon too, to be a more interesting and stickier version than Destiny was for me, which both versions of that failed to hold my attention completely. But let's face it, Anthem is EA, and EA is, well, they're EA, aren't they? So for now, my immediate hopes rests on Fallout 76 to be that social evergame for me. It's a big title from a big studio, so ongoing content, servers, playbase should all be pretty solid and reliable. And of course, of all the things that Bethesda do, good and bad, there is one thing they're quite consistently good at, and that's filling a world full of enjoyable detail that makes the game just kind of pleasant to be in, whether it's just idly wandering and exploring and collecting, or questing and side questing. So maybe, just maybe, Fallout 76 will be the game I've been looking for to soak into as my day winds down and drown some weekends into completely, enjoying solitude or social time as I see fit. So how are you guys feeling about this game now that we have way more information than we did a couple of weeks ago? Thanks for watching, I am Blunty, and I'll catch you next time.